Single dad rescues injured pilot in a winter storm. Have you ever had your entire life change because someone literally fell into it? This is about a widowed father, his little girl, and a woman who dropped out of the winter sky with a broken plane, a broken past, and a heart she swore nobody would touch again. It's a story about warmth in cold places, getting a second try at being human, and finally finding the place you're meant to land. If you love stories that feel like home, real, emotional, hopeful, make sure you're with us. Tap subscribe, hit the bell, and stay close. Now let's begin. The night it started, winter moved in like a warning. Tyler Jacobs stood on the back porch of his small house, one hand wrapped around a chipped mug and the other resting on the old railing he kept meaning to fix. The air had that sharp metallic smell that comes right before heavy snow. He didn't need the weather report. Haven Ridge had taught him to read the mountains the way other people read news. Above him, thick gray clouds sat low and full, waiting to break. It was the kind of night where the world goes quiet, and your heart remembers everybody you've lost. Behind him, from the living room came the sound that still kept him alive. A little girl's laugh. "Ava," he called. She was 6, all curiosity and determination. She sat on the rug in front of the fireplace, tongue between her teeth, building an airport tower out of cardboard and tape. "They'd been working on it together all week, Daddy?" she asked without looking up. "Can planes fly in weather like this?" Tyler stepped inside, the corner of his mouth lifting. "Not smart ones," he said, ruffling her hair. "Nights like this, good pilots stay home." "Unless someone's lost," she whispered. Something in the way she said it made him pause. Then before he could answer, every light in the house flickered and died. The heater clicked silent. The TV went dark. The cabin dropped into stillness. Ava squeaked, startled. "It's okay," Tyler said, already moving. He grabbed the flashlight he always kept under the side table and swept its beam gently across the room. Over model planes, over bookshelves, over the old quilt his wife sewed before cancer took her voice. "Just the storm. We'll light a few candles and make a fort. It'll be an adventure." Then the ground shook. It wasn't thunder. Thunder rolls. This was a hard mechanical roar, then a violent whine, then sudden silence. It sounded wrong in a place this remote. Ava's hand found his. "Daddy, what was that?" Tyler's eyes narrowed toward the tree line. "That," he said quietly, "wasn't the sky behaving. Coat, boots, flashlight upgrade. The heavy-duty military one he never got rid of. Stay inside," he told her. "No matter what, I'll be right back." Before she could protest, he was out the door. Snow had already started to fall, sharp, sideways, stinging his face. The wind pushed against him like it had something to say. He pushed back harder. As he crossed the backfield, something glowed ahead of him. Not fire exactly, but a pulsing orange light, too bright to belong to the woods. There, beyond the edge of his property. Just before the first row of pines, a downed aircraft. When he reached it, his breath caught. It was a small private plane, high-end, but torn apart. One wing was separated. The tail had carved a trench straight across the frozen ground, and steam hissed from the engine compartment. The cabin door was jammed crooked. "Hello?" he called. "Can you hear me?" No answer. He climbed the broken frame, gritting his teeth against the cold metal. Then the door shifted and a body slumped forward. Tyler moved on instinct. "I've got you," he said, catching her weight. It was a woman, late 30s maybe, flight suit half zipped, a gash over her eyebrow still leaking a slow line of red. Strong features. Controlled posture. Even unconscious, she didn't feel helpless. But her hands were shaking, and not from the weather, from something deeper. Her eyelids flickered. "Where?" Her voice barely existed. "Where am I?" "You're safe," he told her. "I'm taking you inside." By the time he staggered back up his porch with her in his arms, Ava was already holding the front door open with a blanket draped over her shoulders. Tyler set the woman gently down on the couch near the firelight. Her skin looked pale against the orange glow. Her breathing was shallow but steady. Ava stood next to him, eyes huge. "Daddy," she whispered. "Is she an angel?" Tyler looked down at the stranger, at the bruises forming on her cheek, at the exhaustion carved into her face. "No," he said softly, "but she did fall out of the sky." The woman woke to warmth. The first thing she registered was the smell. Cedar, wood smoke, a hint of coffee. The second thing was pain. A hot stab in her left shoulder, a pounding ache above her brow. Easy, a voice said. She blinked through the blur. A man sat in a worn armchair near the fireplace, elbows on his knees. Early 40s. Weathered but steady. He had the look of someone who had walked through storms and come out with all his edges softer instead of sharper. "You're awake," he said, relief in his voice but not pity. Good, her mouth was dry. "Where am I?" "Haven Ridge," he said. "Northern Rockies." "My living room, technically." He stood and crossed the room at a calm pace like he didn't want to startle her. "I'm Tyler Jacobs. You crash-landed behind my property in the middle of a blizzard, which I've got to say." He handed her a warm mug. Impressive way to introduce yourself. She didn't drink yet. "How long?" "A couple hours. You were out freezing and a little banged up. You're okay now?" Her gaze swept the room. Wooden floors. Old stone fireplace, books, children's art taped up alongside aviation manuals. A little paper control tower half built on the rug. Home. It felt like home. Her voice was rough. "I'm Claire." Before he could answer, footsteps padded down the hallway. A very serious little girl peeked out, curls messy, blanket around her shoulders. "I'm Ava," she announced quietly. "I'm 6.5, Claire blinked. "Hi, Ava." "You fell," Ava said matter-of-factly. "But Daddy caught you." Tyler cleared his throat. "Ava," he murmured, nudging gently. "Why don't you draw our guest something?" "A welcome picture." Ava lit up instantly. "Okay." She disappeared, already on a mission. Claire's eyes flicked back to Tyler. "She's yours." "Yep," he said. "It's just us?" Claire didn't ask where the girl's mother was. She didn't have to. She'd already noticed one coffee mug. Children's books in neat little stacks. A house arranged by a parent who'd learned to build routine around heartbreak. "I'll be out of your way by morning," she said quietly, setting the mug down. Tyler actually laughed under his breath. "You're kidding." "I've got people waiting," she said. "Things I need to handle." "You can barely lift your arm," he said. "There's zero visibility out there. The road's icing, your radio's fried, and we don't exactly have ride-share services up here in the trees. So no, you're not walking back into a storm because you think you're supposed to." Her jaw hardened. "I didn't ask for help." "No," he said simply. "You just needed it." Snow hissed against the windows. The whole house went quiet. Claire stared at the fire, jaw tight. She hated that this man could look at her and see through the armor she'd spent years welding on. "You run," Tyler said softly, not accusing. "I know that look. I had it after my wife died. Keep moving, don't feel, don't land." Then Ava came along and suddenly I had to learn how to stay put. Something in Claire's face flinched. She didn't answer. A few minutes later, Ava came skipping back holding a drawing with both hands like it was treasure. "I made you," she announced proudly. "But with wings." Claire blinked at the paper. A stick figure woman with purple wings, big smile, flying above a little brown house. Something inside Claire's chest didn't break, it softened. "It's beautiful," Claire whispered. "You can keep it," Ava said. "It'll help you feel better." Tyler watched Claire's face as she held the drawing like it was fragile glass. He didn't look smug. He didn't look surprised. He just looked like he understood. For the first time in a very long time, Claire didn't feel like she was falling. She felt suspended, held, almost safe. Morning came white and quiet. The storm hadn't stopped. It had thickened. Haven Ridge lay under a blanket of snow so dense it muffled sound itself. The world outside their windows felt paused. Claire stood at the kitchen window, a mug of coffee warming her hands. She'd stayed. Tyler hadn't forced her. Her own body had made the decision for her, like some part of her finally shut the engines down. Behind her, the radio played low. Old jazz, crackly and sweet. Ava hummed to herself on the living room rug, surrounded by little plastic airplane wings, glue, and paper scraps. Tyler was by the door shaking snow off his jacket and setting firewood by the hearth. "You like your coffee strong," he said, passing her a refilled mug. "I like it honest," she said. "Strong usually means honest." He huffed a small laugh, then leaned over to correct Ava's build technique on a wobbly wing. Claire watched him do it. Careful hands, slow movements, patience that wasn't performative. This wasn't a man trying to look like a good father. This was a man who'd built his whole life around keeping a little girl steady. "Can she help me pick paint colors?" Ava asked without looking up. "Me?" Claire blinked. "You sure?" "I've been accused of terrible taste." "That's okay," Ava said cheerfully. Me too. Tyler raised an eyebrow. That's teamwork. Claire sat down on the floor with them. Ava pushed a small plastic plane toward her like it was the most natural thing in the world. This one's special, Ava whispered. This one's gonna fly all the way to see Mommy. Claire's hand stopped mid-reach. Your mom? She asked softly. Ava nodded, very sure. She lives in the sky now. Daddy says she watches. So I'm building a plane that can go high enough for her to see it and wave. Those words hit Claire like a quiet punch. Not because they hurt, but because they were true in a way adults forget how to be. She'll see it, Claire said. I promise you she'll see it. Ava nodded, satisfied. Tyler had gone very still in the kitchen, like those words reached some part of him that hadn't been touched in a long time. Claire pretended not to notice. Did you always want to fly? Ava asked, dipping a paintbrush into blue. Yes, Claire said honestly. Always. My dad was a pilot. He used to let me lie on his truck hood and watch takeoffs. Back then, flying felt like escape, like nothing could touch you up there. And then you crashed, Ava said softly. Claire let out a breath. Yeah, she whispered. Then I crashed. Tyler brought 2 mugs to the table and sat across from Claire. Ava went back to painting, humming off key. You okay? He asked, voice low. Claire didn't meet his eyes. She asked if I ever flew to see someone I missed. Did you? He asked. Claire swallowed. I had a daughter. He didn't say anything. He just listened. I was young, Claire said. Too young, too scared. I told myself I wasn't ready. I signed the papers and disappeared. I told myself it was for the best, for her, that somebody more stable could do better than me. And I spent years pretending I didn't look for her every time I flew over a city at night. Her voice went thin. The world called me successful, she said. Articles, interviews, titles, trailblazer, icon. They had no idea I was basically a storm in a suit. You've been carrying that alone? Tyler asked softly. Claire nodded. He leaned back, thumb curled on his mug. You're not a monster. No, she said. Just a coward, Tyler shook his head. No, just a person who made a decision and then had to live with it. She turned away, hugging herself. Do you think people like me get forgiven? He didn't rush the answer. I think, he finally said, some things don't start healing until you forgive yourself first. Otherwise, you just fly in circles waiting for permission. Claire let out a tiny breath that sounded almost like a laugh. Do you talk like that all the time? Only after midnight, he said. Her mouth twitched. Ava wandered back over and climbed straight into Claire's lap like she'd always belonged there. She leaned her head against Claire's chest and whispered, You can be our co-pilot if you want, just for a while. Claire didn't say yes out loud, but her arms closed around that little girl like a promise. Days became routine before Claire realized it was happening. Mornings meant coffee hissing on the stove, boots drying by the door, Tyler bringing in firewood, Ava shuffling sleepily in pajamas and wild hair. Breakfast was toast and maple syrup and radio music that felt older than the house. Afternoons meant sledding down the hill behind the barn, all 3 of them slipping on ice and laughing like children. Claire hadn't heard herself laugh like that in years, raw, unpolished, real. Tyler teased her for screaming the whole way down, and Ava declared her a natural snow rocket. Evenings were slow. Ava would build paper airplanes at the table while Tyler fixed some broken thing with careful hands, and Claire stayed. She stayed on the couch with a blanket over her legs, feeling safe enough to let exhaustion catch up. Later, Tyler handed her an old photo album. She opened it and saw a life she wasn't part of, yet felt like she was being invited into. Tyler in uniform, a woman with kind eyes holding a tiny baby, a younger Ava at a lake, cheeks round and smiling. She was a teacher, Tyler murmured quietly, nodding at his late wife's photo. Smartest person I ever met. She loved books and airplanes and the smell right before rain. Ovarian cancer. We found it too late. Claire's throat tightened. I'm sorry, she said softly. So was I, he said. For a long time, Ava, she didn't let me drown in it. Claire looked down at her own hands. I've missed a lot, she whispered. We all have, he said. Doesn't mean it's too late. She shut the album and stared into the fire. This feels like home, she murmured, almost too quiet to hear. Tyler didn't answer. He didn't have to. Then came the knock. By then the storm had lifted. Sunlight bounced off the snow hard enough to make the whole town glow. Claire had almost convinced herself she could stay hidden in this quiet world forever. She was halfway through packing a duffel she didn't really want to zip when someone rapped on the front door. 3 hard knocks, official-sounding. Tyler frowned. "You expecting anyone?" "No," Claire said, and her face drained. He opened the door. A man stood on the porch in a black coat, looking like he came from a different planet than Haven Ridge. Sharp haircut. Expensive shoes. Cold impatience in his eyes. "I'm looking for Claire Hall," he started. "I'm here," Claire said quickly, stepping forward. Her voice dropped. "What do you want, Derek?" Tyler stayed, but Derek barely spared him a glance. "We need to talk," he said tightly. "Alone." Claire stepped outside and shut the door behind her. The cold hit her face like a slap. She didn't blink. "You disappeared," Derek hissed. "The company is in free fall. Legal's losing their minds. Shareholders are threatening blood. You don't get to vanish." Claire's jaw tightened. "I wasn't vanishing," she said. "I was breathing." "Oh, is that what we're calling crash a prototype jet and hide out in the woods with strangers?" "Don't," she warned, voice low. "Do not turn my life into a headline for you." Something ugly flashed in his expression. "You walked away from everything we built." "No," she said, ice calm. "I walked away from the lies you asked me to carry." That shut him up. "I'm done," she said. "Let them sue. Let them print whatever story they want. I'm not going back." "You're making a mistake," he muttered. "I already made it," she said. "I'm fixing it now." He stared at her for a long second like she'd just ruined his favorite script. Then he turned and walked back to his black car, leaving sharp boot prints in the snow. Claire stood there long after he was gone, breathing fast, letting the air burn her lungs, letting the cold steady her. When she walked back inside, Ava was at the table coloring, humming to herself. Tyler was standing in the living room, arms folded, eyes on Claire. "I should have told you who I was," she said quietly. "I figured you'd get around to it," he said. Claire let out something halfway between a laugh and a sigh. "I wasn't just some pilot. I was the COO of Holston Aerodynamics. People called me the Queen of the Sky. I was the face of innovation. And when one of our jets went down because of a design flaw we buried to save money, they blamed the pilot so the brand could live. I let them. I helped write the statement." Tyler's jaw flexed. "Was it his fault?" "No," she said. "It was mine. Ours, the company's. I was the one who kept it quiet. And when it finally blew up, I ran. I stole a test plane and I ran." Tyler pulled a chair in front of her and sat. Not accusing, not impressed, just present. "And you crashed into my life," he said softly. Claire looked up, startled. "That's not a complaint," he added. Her voice shook. "Do you think less of me now?" He shook his head. "No, I think I finally understand you." Her eyes burned. "What if I ruin this place too?" She whispered. Tyler leaned in. "You can't ruin something you didn't build," he said quietly. "You just showed up, and maybe gave it new meaning." Just then Ava came bouncing in, holding a little cardboard airplane. Someone had written hope across the wings in purple marker. "It's for you," she said seriously, "so you don't forget you can come back." Claire's hand shook as she took it. "Thank you," she whispered. Eventually Claire left, not because she wanted to, because she had to. There was someone she couldn't stop thinking about. Her daughter. When the weather cleared and the plane was flyable again, Tyler and Ava watched from the field as Claire climbed into the cockpit. He'd packed her snacks, coffee, and a folded piece of paper. Ava, on the verge of tears, handed Claire a tiny wooden keychain shaped like a house with wings. "So you always know where you landed," she said. Claire pressed it to her heart. "I'll be back," she whispered. "You better," Tyler murmured. The engine roared. Snow kicked up in a glittering trail. Then she lifted, nose up, steady, gone. Only this time the sky didn't feel like freedom. It felt like distance. Seattle was everything Haven Ridge wasn't. Glass, steel, noise, fast. Claire sat alone in her sleek apartment, surrounded by awards and expensive furniture and silence. It felt hollow now, like a stage after the actors have left. She opened her laptop and for the first time in 20 years, let herself type what she had never allowed herself to type. How to find a child placed in a closed adoption, Washington State. Her hands shook as she filled out the reunion request. Birth date, hospital, county, year. She remembered holding a tiny body wrapped in a blue blanket. She remembered signing papers with teeth clenched so she wouldn't scream. She hit submit. A message popped up. Someone will reach out in a few days. And that was it. That night she couldn't sleep. The city felt too loud. The bed felt too cold. And all she could see when she closed her eyes was Tyler standing in the snow, Ava waving both arms like she was trying to pull a plane back down from the air by sheer will. So she drove. She found the house, not her daughter's. Her daughter's parents. A small brick home with a white fence and 2 sleepy dogs in the yard. She sat in her car and watched. After a while, the front door opened. An older woman stepped out to get the mail. A moment later, a young woman followed. Maybe 20, maybe 21 scrubs. Auburn hair pulled up. Tired eyes. Bright smile. Claire felt her whole body go weightless and heavy at the same time. That was her. That was the baby she'd signed away. A full-grown, living, laughing person. Claire didn't get out of the car. Not yet. But she memorized her walk. Her laugh. The way she leaned into the older woman without even thinking. The way the older woman looked at her with pride. Claire drove away with tears she didn't let fall. Not forever, she told herself. Just not yet. She went back, not to the city, not to the company. Not to the version of herself in magazine articles. Back to Haven Ridge. Back to the porch she swore she wouldn't get attached to. She didn't call first. She didn't text. She just pulled into the gravel drive, heart pounding out of rhythm. Smoke curled from the chimney. The barn leaned the same way. The place felt exactly like it had in her chest every night she'd been gone. When she knocked, the door opened halfway and Tyler just stood there looking at her. For a second, neither of them spoke. "Hey," she breathed. He nodded once. "Hey, you're early," he said. "Early. Ava said you'd come back in spring," he said. She just didn't say which day. Something in Claire cracked and turned warm. "She's smarter than me," she whispered. "Yeah," he said softly. "She is." Claire stepped inside. It smelled like cedar and cinnamon and something baking. The same quilt was on the couch. The same paper planes lined the windowsill. A crayon drawing on the fridge said Sky House Project Phase 2. "I didn't know if you'd want me back," she admitted. Tyler studied her face. Slow and thoughtful, like a man watching the sky and deciding if it was safe to fly. "What changed?" he asked. "I saw her," Claire said. "My daughter. I didn't talk to her. I couldn't, but I saw her. She's okay. Better than okay. And I realized I can't go back to the version of me that let everyone else decide who I am. I don't want penthouses and meetings and statements anymore. I want this," he finished for her. Her voice broke. "Yeah, this." Then small feet pounded down the hallway. Ava appeared, hair wild, clutching a toy plane. She stopped in the doorway and froze like her heart didn't know how to fit inside her body all at once. "Miss Claire?" she whispered. "Hey, Ace," Claire said, dropping to her knees. For a moment, Ava just stared, lip wobbling, eyes filling. Then she launched herself across the room and wrapped her arms around Claire's neck so hard it almost knocked them both over. "You came back," Ava said into her shoulder. "I did," Claire whispered, tears finally spilling. "And I'm not leaving unless you throw me out." "Are you staying in the Sky House?" Ava asked, sniffling. Claire laughed through her own tears. "If there's still room." Tyler leaned on the doorframe, failing, badly, not to smile. "There's room," he said. "Window leaks a little. You'll have dish duty." "Deal," Claire said. That afternoon wasn't dramatic. It was better. It was lunch at the old wooden table. Ava talking a mile a minute about school and about her science project, where she was absolutely going to prove glitter improves aerodynamics. Tyler fixing a kitchen drawer that kept slipping. Claire washing dishes barefoot, sleeves rolled up like she belonged there, because she did. That night, when the house was finally quiet and Ava was asleep under a ceiling full of little paper airplanes hanging from fishing line, like her own private sky, Tyler and Claire stood on the porch with 2 mugs and the sound of crickets. "I didn't think I could ever be someone worth staying for," she said, quietly. Tyler looked at her with that same steady calm that had carried her out of a broken plane. "You didn't have to be perfect," he said. "You just had to come home." She looked up at him. Something settled in the space between them. Not fireworks. Not drama, just right. For years, she believed she only belonged in the air. That night, for the first time, She believed she might belong on the ground. Life didn't suddenly turn into a fairy tale. It just turned real in the best way. Claire stayed, not as a guest. As part of the rhythm, she and Tyler started a weekend workshop at the old gym. Flight Club, Ava called it. Kids from Haven Ridge showed up with cardboard, tape, glitter, and way too much confidence. Claire taught them how lift works and why planes bank and what a stabilizer does. They called her Captain Claire. She pretended to hate it. She didn't. Word spread. The librarian asked her to talk about flight. A retired crop duster pilot asked Tyler and Claire to help bring his old plane back to life. Parents started stopping her in town just to say thank you. One day, she found a note left on her truck windshield in careful kid handwriting. "Thank you for giving us wings." She kept it folded in her jacket pocket. Ava's questions got deeper. 2. One afternoon, while they were painting popsicle stick wings on the back porch, Ava said very casually, "Can I ask you something?" "Anything," Claire said. "Are you my mom now?" Claire froze. Ava kept painting. "Not like instead," she said. "Just also," Claire swallowed. "Do you want me to be?" Ava shrugged. "I just want you to stay." Claire covered Ava's small paint-stained hand with her own. "Then I'm staying," she whispered. "As long as you'll have me." That night they hung those painted planes from Ava's ceiling. Ava lay under them and smiled up at her new sky. "I used to wish I could fly up and see Mommy," she said sleepily. "Now I don't have to. 'Cause you came down." Claire sat on the edge of the bed and brushed a curl off her forehead. "And I always will," she whispered. Time moved. Snow melted. The world went from white to green. Tyler and Claire and Ava fell into something that didn't even need a label anymore. Family wasn't a dramatic moment. It was slow and honest and daily. Then one day it became official, not in a ballroom, not with flowers nobody could afford. In the place where everything started, the old airstrip outside Haven Ridge. They set out folding chairs along the worn asphalt. The town brought food. Kids ran around throwing paper airplanes in every direction. Ava wore sparkly shoes and took her job as head of decorations very seriously. Claire wore a pale blue dress and bare feet. Tyler wore suspenders and a look in his eyes that said everything. Without needing anything rehearsed, the town librarian, who also secretly ran the poetry club, stood up front to do the official part. Tyler took Claire's hands and said simply, "You crashed into our world and made us look up again." Claire's voice shook, but she held steady. "You didn't try to fix me," she whispered. "You just gave me somewhere to land." When they kissed, every kid in town threw handmade paper planes into the air. Some glided, some spun, some nosedived, some looped. All of them flew. That night, after everyone left and the stars settled in over Haven Ridge, the three of them sat on the back steps of the hangar wrapped in one big quilt. Fireflies moved like tiny lanterns over the field. "This was the best day ever," Ava said, leaning sleep-heavy against Claire's side. "It really was," Claire whispered, kissing the top of her head. "We're a real family now," Ava said softly. "For real," Tyler smiled. "We always were," he said. "Today everybody else just got to see it." Ava yawned. "Now we all got the same last name." Claire squeezed her little hand. "That's just letters," she said. "Family is what we build every day on purpose." Ava nodded like that made perfect sense. Claire tilted her head back and looked at the sky. For the first time in her life, looking up didn't feel like longing. It felt like gratitude. Her past wasn't erased. Her scars weren't gone. Her missing daughter wasn't magically in her arms. But something had opened. A few days later, a letter arrived. No return address. Just a single line inside, written in neat, careful handwriting. "I read your story. I'd like to meet you. Maybe somewhere we can see the sky." Claire held the paper in shaking hands. Her daughter. Not a dream. Not a memory. A real person reaching back. She pressed the letter against her heart, stepped into the kitchen and looked at the life around her. Ava's drawings taped to the fridge. Tyler humming while he rinsed dishes. Her own ring catching morning light. "Wherever you're listening from," she whispered, "don't give up on second chances." Then later, when she sat down to record the ending for this story, she said, "Tell us where you're watching. Tell us where home is for you. A big city, a quiet town, somewhere in between. We read all of it. And if this story found something soft in you, stay with us. Subscribe. Turn on the bell. We share stories about love that heals, about people who choose each other, and about the quiet ways ordinary days save lives. Thank you for spending this time with us, and remember, sometimes the crash isn't the end, sometimes it's the landing.